Hello, and welcome to Teach the Semester Design for Every Semester. In this series of webinar recordings, we are going to explore some of the things that you can do to prepare your courses for semester copying from semester to semester in an efficient and timely and sustainable manner. In this particular presentation, we're going to take a look at some strategies for leveraging existing content. Specifically, how can you take existing materials that you've probably already created or maybe you've gotten from a publisher and either edit them or store them in a way that makes them easy to get or change from semester over to semester. First thing I want to talk about, though, are what about those videos, right? This is a big topic in everybody's Blackboard course. Videos that you've recorded, whether it was in HyFlex situation or you pre-recorded lectures for students to be able to watch, whatever the case may be. And I'm only briefly going to talk about the length of those videos. The reason I bring this up is because the longer the video is, the harder it is to maintain that video. So that's actually the direction that I'm going to be coming from in this particular topic. When we think about videos, if we create a 40-minute video, then if there's something in the first 5 minutes that needs to be edited, needs to be done, there's new information, there's an update of some sort, we're sort of stuck having to maybe recreate the entire 40-minute video. It's a lot more sustainable if you were to take your content and chunk it. So just as a very quick example, what I'm talking about here would be, let's say you have a PowerPoint that you normally would be teaching from, you'd be recording this lecture from, it takes you 40 minutes to go through your lecture, but in that PowerPoint, there are about 4 topics that you cover, 4 subtopics. If you chunk that 40-minute video into 4 10-minute pieces, that is a lot easier if then in that first video, those first few minutes that I spoke about earlier, something needs to be updated. It's a lot easier to update that one video and not have to touch the other 3 than it is to re-record all 40 minutes. Plus, from a sustainability standpoint and digital accessibility standpoint, it's also a lot easier to create the closed captioning for one 10-minute video than it is for one 40-minute video. And remember, in your online courses, they do need to be digitally accessible for all learners. So that closed captioning is a must that falls under ADA compliance laws. Very quickly with the bar graph that's here, just some things I'm going to touch on about cognitive load, right? Just as learners, what we can actually retain in sort of one sitting. You can see that there's a high retention rate of information as well as a higher likelihood, and that's really what this bar graph is, a higher likelihood that people will watch videos ranging up to about 9 minutes. 9 minutes or shorter. You can see that that's about 95% in that bar graph. Versus once we get beyond the 9-minute mark, there's a pretty significant drop off down to less than 60% of viewers would actually finish a video beyond 9 minutes. And then it drops off even more significantly down to about 20% would actually finish a video once we hit around the 12-minute mark or greater. So keeping your videos shorter, you have a higher likelihood of a much higher likelihood of viewers actually watching the video from start to finish. And based on cognitive load theory, what our brains can actually retain in one sitting, sort of uninterrupted and without wandering off, anything at about that 9 minutes or less mark, you have a higher rate of success. Students have a higher rate of retention of information. And as I already mentioned, it would also be easier to maintain. Other things when you're creating your videos, just things to keep in mind. Very similar to what you would do when it comes to typing text in your Blackboard courses or in documents that you would store. Avoid using specific dates. In your video, definitely neglect saying something like today on November 23rd. Next year, it might not be November 23rd. Avoid the year saying 2021. Avoid the semester saying fall semester or spring semester, anything along those lines. The more you can avoid sort of putting a timestamp, if you will, on it, the more likely you can use that same recording semester over semester. Where this can get a little bit touchy or a little bit difficult is if, for example, you're mentioning in module 1 or in week 1 of this course, you might be able to get away with that depending on the course, depending on if you have switched things up from semester to semester as far as the order that information is presented. Week 1 isn't quite as sustainable, maybe as saying module 1. So you can maybe get away with that, but in general, I might say try your best to avoid, I'll call them identifiers of when this information takes place in the course. Use a consistent format in your videos. Okay, here's another tip about being succinct and sustainable. I like to call this the video sandwich, that every video should open sort of with an introduction, go into your content, and then tie everything together at the end, put a nice pretty bow on it. We have some sort of summary. This creates consistency for the students. They're more likely to actually watch a video from start to finish if that consistent format exists in every video through, from start to finish, that something sets the scene, that introduction. We of course get into the content, whatever that may be, and then you faculty wrap it all up and sort of hit the highlights of what was discussed in that video lecture. By them knowing what to expect, they can also begin to make predictions. And in this case, they might actually hit pause in some cases and say, I bet you this is what the professor is about to say. And that's actually a good thing when it comes to learning, if they can make those predictions. They may not be able to, and that's okay too. Some tools that are definitely at your disposal that can help with making videos and storing videos, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit. Zoom is a great tool for recording your videos, especially if you record to the cloud, because after a little bit of time, the closed captioning, the AI will actually create the closed captioning, and it should send an email to your Damon account that is ready. The AI is really good. It is not perfect. There is no closed captioning AI tool out there that is 100%, perfect, captures every word and the grammar perfectly, at least not at this time. Maybe one day there will be. Screencast-O-Matic is another tool that's at your disposal and is pretty good. It also has an AI about capturing the closed captioning, but Zoom seems to be a little bit better. PowerPoint is another video capturing tool, believe it or not. A lot of faculty are very familiar with this, that when you go to save the PowerPoint, instead of saving as a PPT, you can essentially save it as an MP4, a video file. There are a couple of drawbacks to this. First, a video file saved from a PowerPoint does tend to be a little bit larger. And if you are uploading those files to your Blackboard course, that can eat up a lot of space very quickly. Another downfall is there is no auto captioning with a PowerPoint turned into a video file. So while it's definitely doable, you're most likely going to have to now upload that MP4 to either something like Screencast-O-Matic and let the AI create the captioning, or record your video using Zoom so it can create the closed captioning. It'd be a little bit redundant in that particular case. So at this point, what I would probably recommend and maybe push you toward would be either using Screencast-O-Matic or Zoom to create your recording so you can get those closed captionings and have very little to have to edit. What about storing these videos? What about making them accessible to students? Okay, back to that sustainability piece, semester over semester. If you know that this is a video that you are going to make every semester, it's always going to change. You're not really going to be able to use this semester over semester. If you've recorded and stored to the cloud in Zoom, and you can see in the screen on the left, we would go to your recordings, find the recording, and then I can click this button number 2 here in the steps that says copy shareable link. You could provide that link in your Blackboard course, and just knowing that for that semester, that's where it's located, it will open an extra tab in a student's view, and they'll be able to view your recorded lecture sort of through the Zoom lens. But if this is a video that you're pretty sure you're going to be able to use for multiple semesters before maybe you have to redo it or just not use it again for whatever reason, then what I might recommend instead is storing it in your Google Drive and then embedding that video in your Blackboard course. In the image on the right, what you'll see is actually, this is from a Blackboard course that I've helped build, HPR 247, a grant writing course. And this video that's stored in the course is actually embedded in the course. It's stored in Google Drive, but now we took the HTML code, the iframe, and brought it into Blackboard. And what this allowed it to do was create a nice smooth interface for the students that they don't have to click a link and rely on that link opening another tab and then watch the video in another tab. This instead just plays right in line. They can still see this readings and resources on the same page, click on this play sign, watch the video, see this disclaimer down here about things like intellectual property or whatever else. And by the way, along those lines, I'll talk about that in a moment. Google Drive does allow you to protect your intellectual property, just as long as you are setting the share settings appropriately. But if it's going to be semester over semester, this is probably the route I would recommend, and not that difficult to maintain from the Google Drive perspective. So keeping that in mind, why Google Drive? What advantages does it give you? As we're aware, it currently gives us unlimited storage, which means we're not eating up space in Blackboard, knowing that we have Blackboard, there's a cap on the amount you can put in a Blackboard course right now. Uploading files like PowerPoints and PDFs and videos can eat up a lot of space, and you might reach your cap very soon. So we all have access to Google Drive. You can store it in Google Drive. As I mentioned earlier, you can control the share settings, whether or not people can make a copy of your item, whether or not they can download, whether they have permission. I suggest reach out to our office if you're unfamiliar with these, but to put it simply, when you click that share button, there will be a gear that will allow you to make those determinations, whether or not you're going to allow others to download or copy, or even share the link out with other people. That may be the kind of settings, the security that you want to put on there. And depending on the item, videos, PDFs, and PowerPoints, and Google Forms for that matter, we can get the embed code, the HTML code, and all of those items can be embedded in your Blackboard course, very similar to the way a video can. So what am I talking about this? I'm actually going to leave the presentation for just a moment and talk about how to store them in your courses. So what do I mean by how to store them? How should you organize this? You do have the ability to create a folder in Google Drive. In my screenshot example on the right here, I have a Fall 19 Course A and Fall 19 Course B. These are two separate courses, and in each course I have various subfolders for the various modules. Well, if I visit this folder and drill down to those subfolders, I can get a link to a lecture that came from Course A. And oh, maybe there's a topic that crosses boundaries and I know that was in Course B, so I can go in there, get that link, and store it in the exact same course. As I mentioned, what does this look like? So in my Google Drive, let me back up here for a moment. There we go. I've been involved with the development of many courses in the Study Abroad program. So I'm going to stick with that grant writing course, HPR 247. And you can see I have a folder created for that, as well as HSC 112 and many other courses. Inside this course, I have 5 specific subfolders. Each one of these are folders in my Blackboard course, which I can show in just a moment. But what I'm really going to focus on today is this third subfolder. It says modules or weekly course materials. And even in that subfolder, there is another layer of subfolders, one for each module in the course. There are 8 total modules, and that's why I have 8 total subfolders. Week 1, module 1, week 2, module 2, etc. These are stored in my Google Drive. I'm going to visit the first module. And here's what you see inside. I have the PowerPoint that goes with the first module. Here's a PDF that goes with the first module. Here's the video, the recording for the first module. All of this is stored in Google Drive, and I've set my share settings in such a way that, as you can see here, it says restricted, but on each item, I'll look at the video for a moment. I go to share, and anyone in this group can view this link, damon.edu. That allows me to control that just not anyone on the internet can actually view my video. When it comes to something that's like a document and I go to share, I get the gear in the upper right. So again, it's anyone in this group can view the link, but even in the gear, now I can say viewers and commenters can see the option download, print, and copy. I can deselect that and they can no longer download, print, or copy that particular item. So that is something that you'll want to check out when you're putting things in Google Drive. But this is all module 1 stuff. Another beautiful piece of this, you probably saw it in the presentation a little bit, right? Right here, the idea of managing caption tracks and managing versions. So once I get that video stored in my Google Drive, when I hover on it, if I go to right click, manage caption tracks, I can get the caption file from Zoom, for example, right? And you can see that this caption file has already been uploaded for this particular video, but you'll have a button that says add new caption tracks. You can click on that, find that file in your computer or in your downloads, and just upload it in this space. What happens is this. Now, when we click play, here we go. Here are the captions for this particular recording. So that's the first thing I want to point out. That's what's really great with the Google Drive storage is we can house the video and attach its captions to it all in one. Zoom is a great tool to help with that transition. But let's say it's now 2 or 3 semesters down the line. I want to re-record this video. I've already put this link in the course, or I've embedded it in the course. It means I have to remove this here. I have to remove the link from the course. The reality is that's actually not true. What you can do instead is hover on the video, go to right click, manage versions. By clicking manage versions, here's the current version that was recorded October 1st. And if I had a second version, it would say the year, so 2021. I can click upload new version and upload the newest version of this MP4 video, this re-recording. What that's going to do is it's going to leave the URL, the link to this video, the exact same, but it's going to also auto update it in any place that you put that link. Okay, so here's what I mean ultimately by that. By doing this, you don't have to change the link or remove a video or anything like that in your Blackboard course. All you need to do is upload the newest version, and eventually you'd have the save button and click that. And the iframe, if you have embedded it, or the link will stay exactly the same. By the way, it works the same for things like PDFs, manage versions. I can upload a new version if I've created a new PDF or there's been some updates to the one that existed. It will just, the link, the URL will stay the same, but the version that the students will see will be the most up-to-date version. So there are a lot of benefits there to doing that. What might this look like in a Blackboard course? Just to give you an idea, let's actually visit that particular video. Here's what I mean about how it's embedded. When a student visits this course, they'll see these hyperlinks to that PDF I just demonstrated and the PowerPoint I just demonstrated. Because these are hyperlinks, when they click on it, it's going to open it as a separate tab. They can view it. Same thing with the PDF. It'll open it as a separate tab. I've left the options to download or print available for them, so they can still do that if they need to. The video itself, again, all they need to do is click play and it will play right in line. So we can see that it's playing. We can see that the closed captioning picks up there. We can help you with this embedding code if this is something you're interested in. Just get those videos stored in your Google Drive in a way that makes sense. In this HPR 247 course, we've got our subfolders that match exactly how this course is laid out with our start here, our syllabus section, and our course content as an example. So to wrap it all up and do my video sandwich, practice what I preach in summary. Short and chunked video content. It's easy. It's easy to maintain it. It is more sustainable, and you'll have higher viewership if you do it. Use of consistent format in all course assets. Okay, that video sandwich, for example, for all your videos, a similar format for all your documents that students would take a look at, whatever those documents might be. Consider for how long the video will need to be accessed by the students. This will determine the where and how you store it. If they need it for more than one semester, if it's something you're going to use over and over again, I highly recommend storing in Google Drive. If it's something that's probably a one-off, you can either store it in Google Drive, which is perfectly acceptable, follow the same things we've already laid out, or provide the link, for example, to where it is in Zoom, keeping in mind that eventually it will get wiped out of Zoom because of storage limits in Zoom. Those get cleared out. I believe it's about every 90 days. Please don't hold me to that. And then finally, leverage Google Drive for storage and maintenance. Think about the managing versions piece. If you run into issues or you have questions, you want help with any of these pieces that I've outlined today, please reach out to either me, Eric Hill, our Director of Instructional Design, Peter Schilke, or Angela Stockman, our other instructional designer in the office. We're here and we're available. Or you can just email id@damon.edu. That email goes to all three of us in the office and someone will surely apply. Happy sustainability.